So thank you very much for joining the session. So this is for AWS Cloud Practitioner. So as I said, I'm a certified AWS Solution Architect. I'm also certified Cloud Practitioner as well. So I started my journey in cloud journey in 2016, and 3-4 years I got a very good opportunity working in the cloud. And then I was also parallelly looking at the solution design plus architecture, and I really wanted to share this information to you all. Okay, so the agenda for the whole session, this is the agenda I have already shared with you guys. Today we're going to focus the serial number 1 and 2, that is introduction and free tier account creations, and we will also look about the cloud computing of introduction as well. Okay, so initially I had factored for half an hour for these two sessions, but I wanted to cover it up in one day, so that's the reason you see the date as 28. And going forward, we will look at all the subsequent topics as well in detail. Okay, and if you have any questions, probably just raise your hands and I will come back and look at my screen, and then we can discuss those questions. So about this course, the core objective is to teach you about the cloud practitioner or fundamentals of AWS cloud, and pretty much it will touch upon the basics or majority or critical 20 to 30 services which any of the projects will be using on it. To learn this course, basic IT experience is advised, but if you don't have it also, that's fine. So you can, as long as you have an attitude to learn and willingness to put your extra effort, you would be able to definitely learn about AWS, because you have a huge number of or huge variety of open sources. As long as you factor your time, you should be able to understand what is AWS all about it, and we will cover the basics of AWS on this course. Okay, as I said, we will cover almost 40 plus services out of 250 services. Okay, I mentioned here 200 here, but if you look at in today's world, AWS is offering more than 250 services, right? Then estimated cost for the hands-on exercise is $0. That's what I'm looking at it, because pretty much we're going to use the 3-tier services, and if at all any services we're going to use which is going to cost you, I'll let you know, and we will try to minimize the cost. So it shouldn't be more than $10 or $5 for throughout their course, but 99% I'll try to cover the entire courses with the free of charges or free tier services. Okay. um, and you can read more about the AWS free tiers on this website. Okay, so it will let you know what are the services or what are the configuration that comes under the free tiers. That information is here in the aws.amazon.com/free, right? So if you look at the AWS certification, like if you are aspiring to be certified on the AWS and you don't have the knowledge of AWS, where you want to start, right? So I would suggest start with the foundational certification, because foundational certification is the basic fundamental certificate for AWS cloud. So if you are planning to do the certification, don't rush it. My advice is do not rush it, because we are not in the race, right? You wanted to gain the knowledge, take time. Maybe I would suggest, if you really wanted to do a certification, you wanted to show to your organization that, hey, you know what, I spent extra effort and I did some certification, then plan it for 3 to 6 months of time, because AWS has huge variety of services. I said more than 250 plus services. So when you go for the foundational or fundamental certification, they will try to test your knowledge pretty much 40 to 50 services, right? Um, that is like 1/3 of touching upon the entire AWS services. So take time, don't rush it yourself. Spend enough time in reading it, spend enough time in practicing it, then go for certification anytime you can get it. But what is more than important about the certification is that the knowledge of AWS, right? So if you want to do the certification, my recommendation is that do not rush it and plan it for 3 to 6 months time. And this course is going for next 2 months time, though. So this will give you enough time in learning the fundamentals about AWS, and I will also give you some of the sources for self practices as well. Like AWS is providing some of the free lab kind of exercise called Skill Builder, so you can use Skill Builder, and also I can share some of the material at the end of this course, so you can try to do the practices. And if you guys have Udemy access, and even I can provide some of the Udemy references as well. So You can go out and practice yourself and familiarize of all those services. And you should know that where to use these services and when to use these services and how to use these services. That's more important, right? More than gaining the knowledge, more than having theoretical understanding of these services, we should also know that how to contextually apply our knowledges on these services, how to build the services or how to build the system. That's more than more important for learning the AWS. So AWS is totally providing 12 certification. The first one is Cloud Practitioner, which gives the fundamental or foundational understanding. Once you have that, then you can either plan your certification on associate level. Associate level is the kind of intermediate level. So AWS is providing 3 certification on the intermediate level. One is the SysOps administrators, kind of DevOps, I would say. The other one is developer. If you are focusing on the AWS development and deployment, I would suggest focus on the AWS Certified Developer Associate certification. And if your roles and responsibilities related to the solution architect, then focus your certification on the solution architect associate. Okay. For doing the associate, yeah.
Sendil, Muthu is waiting in the lobby. He wants to join.
Oh, sorry. Where is it? Yes. Hey, hi Muthu. Did you join? Muthu?
Hi.
Hey, hi Muthu. So we'll come back to you. I know you joined a little bit late, but I'll come back and then we can talk about it. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
We're just getting started the session. Yeah.
Is one other query before we move forward. So Azure provides the free certification vouchers, once in a while they will conduct some sessions, right? So if you attend those sessions, they will provide the vouchers to take up these certifications. So how about AWS? Do they do that?
Yeah, AWS so far I haven't heard any free vouchers. I know Azure it provides. I think Azure you will have to attend 3 or 4 sessions, right? Some of the sessions they try to schedule it, and you will have to be part of those sessions. Once you complete, and they try to provide the free vouchers for the certification. But I haven't heard anything for AWS so far. Okay.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
So so on the intermittent level, AWS is providing 3 certification. One is for DevOps, another one is for developer, and another one is for solution architect. So based on your roles and responsibility, you try to pick up any one of the certification. But doing the associate certification, the cloud practitioner foundation certification is not mandatory. You can directly even do the associate certification also. But you want to slowly take a step-by-step approach. You want to build your knowledge on the cloud. I would suggest go for foundational certification and then go for associate certification, because if you work in the cloud for 3 to 6 months time, I would suggest the cloud practitioner foundation certification is the best certification to opt it. And if you're working in the cloud for more than 1 year, then go for associate certification, because you can do the certification. Like if you try to spend your time 3 to 4 months time, definitely you can achieve any certification in the AWS. Okay. But what is more important is that the knowledge, the working knowledge, right? So when you get an opportunity to work in any of the program, you will know that how to utilize these services, how to use these services, where to use and when to use, right? That's what more important. So plan your time accordingly. 3 to 6 months time, do your foundation certification, then take another 6 months time, practice enough, and do your solution architect certification. So this is on the the foundational and associates. Now you wanted to get more deeper into any of these areas. For example, you did uh, the DevOps certification, or you did solution architect associate certification. Now you still wanted to continue. You have 2 paths. One is that you can go for professional certification, or other one is you can go for specialty certification. Professional is the most hardest certification in the AWS. So AWS provides 2 professional certification. One is the AWS Solution Architect, and other one is the DevOps engineer. For example, you completed the associate level SysOps administration certification, and you wanted to still deepen your knowledges. My recommendation would be plan for at least 1 year to 2 years timelines, and then try to take the DevOps engineer professional certification. If you're working on the solution architect associates, do not rush it. Plan your time for 1 or 2 years timeline, then go for solution architect professional certifications. Because when you do professional certification, that's the end, right? So it is assumed that in a nook and corner every inch and bit of the AWS services. And then the specialty certification, AWS provides another 6 certificates on the specialty on the networking side, data analytics, database, machine learning, and security, and SAP on AWS. So based on your demand, based on your requirements, based on your nature of working, you can plan your certifications. Now, most of you say that I understand you guys are not working on the AWS and you are stepping into the AWS, you want to explore more your career towards AWS cloud, then start with the foundational certification. Plan your time 3 to 6 months time. Do not rush it. Okay. So cloud practitioner foundational certification is the baseline for you. Now, if we talk about the traditional IT infrastructure, as most of us working in the IT for some of the time, and few people are students as well. If you look at any of the organization, right? So what are they doing it? Any organization is providing services to the consumers, end customers, or business users, or business enterprise customers. So they have huge amount of infrastructure is always running on the on-premise, right? So they have router, they have switches, they have OS, machines, so many things are running. And to maintain that infrastructure, they also need to focus on the database management, security management, and then if there is any virtualization, they have to focus on network management, IT server management. They have to continuously manage their environment, right? And when the time comes for scaling in, scaling out, or there is a spike in the traffic, they have to procure the additional hardware, right? They have to procure the additional hardware, or they have to procure additional servers, which is eventually costing, but it's going to be one time use. For example, if you think about the Black Friday, if you think about the Boxing Day, right? Any organization, if you look into the traffic volume, especially on those holiday season, especially on those the Boxing Day events, the traffic is almost pretty much more than twice or more than thrice than compared to normal day, right? So we all know that the existing current platform is going to be challenging in managing those traffic. So they have to procure, they have to plan in a way which is costing huge amount of money for any organization to keep maintain their infrastructure, right? So that is where the cloud comes into the picture. So what I'm showing is now the traditional IT infrastructure. So you have the end users, and to support the end users, our business and operations, you always have hundreds of routers, switches, networks is running on your premises, right? So the traditional challenge is, as I said, pay for the rent for the data center, and then you have to have the power supply, cooling, and maintenance. Adding and replacing the hardware always takes time, because which comes with number of technician, number of engineer has to do the job, and scaling is limited in the sense like if you plan to add a couple of racks, if you plan to add a couple of OS servers, you always have to think twice or thrice, because you're spending huge amount of money in scaling those environments, right? And then hiring 24/7 teams to monitor the infrastructure, because if you maintain any IT infrastructure, you always have to have the production support team. You always have to have the IT ops team or support team anytime, right? Some of the mission critical application we expected to run for 24 hours even. Now, if you think about now, if you say, hey, my application is running 24/7, that's the usual, right? Even the social media is never died, right? And think about the telecom services. I think if you guys remember last year, we had Rogers communication outage for one day, right? How many bugs, right? How many hackers we had? How many people had trouble on one day of outages, right? So that's where we wanted to always have our application is available for 24/7, and there is an equivalent amount of effort is being spent, equal amount of cost is also being spent to monitor those infrastructure, and how to recover the disasters, right? In case of earthquake, in case of power shutdown or fire, right? So these are the problems we have on the traditional IT infrastructure for any organization. To overcome these problems, right? We are working towards the cloud infrastructure. Now, cloud. So far, anybody has any questions? Because I wanted to take 10-second pause and ask the question, because I don't want to keep running as a news read, right? So wanted to make sure that you guys are following with me. Good. Anyone? Yes? No?
Yeah, we are good.
Okay. Yeah. Just keep saying yes, no, if you understand something like that. Yeah. Okay. Sure. So cloud computing. Cloud computing, most of the reason why we go for cloud computing is the flexibility we have. Okay, cloud offers number of services, and whenever you need some services, you can go ahead and use it, and when you don't need it, you can leave it back, because cloud charges only for the time you consume those resources, right? It's like, picking a cab, right? When are we picking a cab? For example, you want to travel from Brampton to Mississauga, right? There are a number of options out there. You can go by, bus, or you can go by uh, car, or you can even rent a car in enterprise, or you can even book a Uber as well. So one of the best option what we can do is that either you can use the public services, that's a time consuming job, but you are running on a hurry mode, you wanted to go quickly, then I would suggest take a Uber, right? What are you trying to do in Uber? We are booking an Uber and using it for the time which we need, and then we are not paying. Same way comes in the cloud as well, right? So cloud, um, they have huge amount of services. Now we have to decide what we want from them, how much time we want them, how much computing, how much resources we want them, and then use it. And when you don't need it, you can leave it at that, because you're gonna pay for the services amount of time you consume, right? So cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of computer power, that is computing and database storage, application, and IT other services through a cloud service platform, um, with a pay-as-you-go model, right? So you pay for the services, you use it, and you don't want it, you're not going to pay for it. And you can provision exactly the right type and size of computing resources you need, and you can access as many as resources almost instantly. That's the beauty, right? So you wanted to scale your on-premises environment. It is the procurement is a large process, right? So you wanted to add a couple of servers, you wanted to add or install a couple of wires. Procuring and getting a license, procuring those hardwares, it takes huge amount of time and huge amount of money as well. But in case of cloud, how many servers you want to add, you can do it instantly. Okay, log into AWS, log into Azure, log into Google Cloud, place the orders, and then your server is ready within few minutes of time, right? That's the beauty of cloud. So you can access as many as resources you need almost instantly, and simple way to access server, storage, database, instead of application services. Finally, Amazon Web Services, that's AWS, owns and maintains the network connected hardware required for these application services, while provision and use what you need via the web application. So there are a number of ways that you can access the AWS. I'll show you, pretty much this course. We're gonna look after only the management console, which is nothing but a web applications. But there are other ways also that you can connect to AWS via the CDK, as well as CLI or SDK as well. So, but I can show you the number of ways that I can access the AWS. But throughout this course, we're going to use the web-based application called AWS Management Console. Okay. Now, the cloud deployment model. So we have three types of cloud deployment model. Anyone has any question? I see, I hear a beep sound. I don't know if somebody's trying to join.
Yeah, that was me. I just sent the chat.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so we have three types of cloud. One is the public cloud. Public cloud services are owned and operated by third-party cloud services provider, delivered over the internet. Example, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba, IBM, Oracle, all comes under the public cloud. Okay, the access into the environment, access into the AWS services is been open for across the world. Anyone can consume, anyone can use those services. That's called as the public cloud. Sorry, yeah, public cloud. And next one is private cloud. Okay, private cloud is being set up by the organization for their own usage. It's not being exposed to public usage, or it's not being exposed to outside world as well, right? So the cloud services used by single organization, not exposed to public, complete control and security for sensitive applications, and meet specific business. For example, you might have some of the regulator requirements saying that you should not store the customer information into the public cloud. You should not put your customer information or customer data and hide in the cloud. those cases, most of the organization goes for the private cloud. Private cloud in the sense they have their own cloud, right? And they might have one or two data centers. One might be in Toronto, other one might be in Montreal, or other one might be in the Vancouver. Okay, based on the needs, how many ever database the data center they wanted to set it up, then probably they can set it up, right? But that cloud is not being exposed to the external users or not being exposed to public use, and that's only for their own internal purpose, called as private cloud. Public cloud services are being exposed to outside world. Anybody can access any services and pay for what you are using it, right? Uh, then the hybrid cloud. Hybrid cloud keeps some servers on premises and extend some capabilities to the cloud. As I said, some of the organization might have regulatory requirement that they don't want to expose the data into the public cloud, so they host all the databases and database related servers in the private cloud, but the application, right, the application layer or the user layer are being exposed to public cloud. They may not have regulatory requirement, or that is something that they could not afford it, so they might probably go out and use the hybrid cloud. They can use public cloud as well as private cloud. Okay, that's called as hybrid cloud. Keep some servers on the on-premises and also extend some capability to the public cloud. That's called as hybrid cloud. And control over sensitive swap in your private infrastructure. As I said, any regulatory requirements, then you can keep those information on your private cloud. Flexibility and cost effectiveness of public cloud. So that's one of the most advantageous facility using the public cloud, called flexibility and cost effectiveness. The problem addressed by cloud, these are 6 or 7 problems are being addressed. One is flexibility, change the resource types when it is needed. For example, you are by the time you are launching your application, you might think that you know what, my application is being used by 100,000 users, but over the period of time you realize that your application has is attracting or gaining an attention from more users. The 100,000 users is growing hugely into 200,000 users. Example, you might have heard a story recently, right? The chat GPT coming into the picture, right? Everybody was trying to publish a story saying that Netflix almost took 3.5 years time to reach 1 million customers, and Facebook took almost a year to reach 1 million customers. But this chat GPT has taken exactly 5 days to reach 1 million customers, right? So there is room for flexibility, right? They need to keep changing the resources. Otherwise, when you try to access a server, your server might have load balancing issue, or they could not able to handle all the customer requirements, and sometimes it might go down as well. So the cloud provides good amount of flexibility, change the resource type when you need. You initially launch with some a smaller size and you want to then grow it to the medium and you wanted to grow to the larger, you always have an options, and just go out and do it in a minute of time. You can change the entire configuration of your infrastructure. Okay, and cost effectiveness, pay as you go for what you use, right? You wanted to use it for 1 hour, you wanted to use it for 5 minutes, you wanted to use it for 1 year or 3 years. It's up to you totally based on your business demand. Use how much time you want, use it, and pay only for the time you use it. That's called cost effectiveness. And scalability. Scalability is also similar to flexibility. Accommodate large load by making hardware stronger or adding additional nodes. Elasticity, ability to scale out and scale in when it is needed. Example, you anticipate there is a Black Friday, you anticipate there is a Boxing Day. You know that based on the traffic pattern from the previous years, you wanted to scale out your servers to some quantity, then you can schedule it in advance so that when the time comes, the cloud is automatically allocate those resources to manage the volume. When the time out, the cloud will automatically scale in all those services, and then cost will come down, right? In a way, it is not impacting your business functionality. Still, all the services are up and running, but you need services for only 1 day. You need services for 1 week. You can schedule it in a way, and then you can use it. High availability and fault tolerance. Why do we say high availability and fault tolerance? In the sense, if you think about any cloud, AWS, Azure, or Google, they have the concept called region. Region in the sense, geographically, the world is being divided into number of regions. Okay, based on the population or based on the volume of customers, they think that they are consuming the services. They divide the whole world into number of regions, and within each regions, they have number of data centers for high availability. So if you think about the AWS in Canada, they have two regions. As of now, mainly one region is running that is called as the CS Central, which has three availability zones. Okay, three availability zones. Three availability zones since that is data center. Three data center. Okay, so even if one data center is going down, you have another two data centers which is serving for your customers. That is called as high availability. But think about a situation like I'm running a small business. I could not afford, having my server which is running in Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver, right? If my assume I only have my data center in Toronto and there is a power outage for the whole day, then I'll be losing my business. There is no availability. And if I want to launch in somewhere else also, it's going to be costing huge for me, right? So to avoid those kind of situation, I can probably go for cloud. Cloud is automatically giving minimum 2 availability centers up to 6 availability centers. Availability center is nothing but your data centers. Okay, that is called as for mainly high availability. High availability in fault tolerance, both across data centers. Agility, rapidly develop, test, and launch software applications. So you can launch as soon as possible because you have all the provision to launch your application. So these are the main advantages are being provided by the cloud is flexibility, cost effectiveness, scalability, elasticity, high availability, and agility. Good. So types of cloud. We have seen the deployment model. There are 3 deployment models you have: private, hybrid, and public cloud. Now the types of cloud is that you also have the traditional landscape, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. Right. The traditional landscape we all know. Every organization, every enterprise have to manage the end-to-end application landscape, which comes from the network, storage, server, virtualization, operating system, database, or software system, or building up an application on top of it. Everything we have to manage it by ourselves. Now, cloud is providing variety of operations, variety of options to use and consume the services. Now, you think that I'm good at managing the infrastructure, right? You can go for infrastructure as a service. You have good amount of knowledge in configuring those infrastructure. You know what is the CPU, what is the RAM size, what is the hardware, what is the database that you want to configure. You have good amount of knowledge in configuring those items, where you wanted to configure, when you wanted to configure, right? Then you can go for infrastructure as a service because you have good amount of infrastructure. So you can set up your network, storage, server, and virtualization. Once you have the infrastructure, then you can let the application team to build the OS, whichever the OS is required, and build your applications database and the software for the deployment model. Those situations, the infrastructure as a service is most often. The next one is platform as a service, saying that like I don't want to maintain the infrastructure. I don't want to think about the what OS or what databases I have to do. I'm building my own applications. And go for platform as a service, right? So AWS will take care of all the infrastructure, deploying the OS, and giving you the databases. Just build your own application and put it on the cloud. The rest of all being managed by AWS. That comes on the platform as a service. You are thinking that I wanted to focus my business. I don't have time to focus on my IT, or I don't want to focus on building applications. Then go for software as a service, right? You have an application, the end-to-end bundle is being given to you to support your business. That is called a software as a service. The best example for software as a service is your Outlook suite, is your Gmail suite, right? What are we trying to do now in Gmail? The application is already there. Those applications, behind the application, fundamentally is being supported by a huge amount of infrastructure. They also have the OS, they have equivalent databases. What are we trying to do as the end users? We are trying to consume those services, right? So that's the best example for software as a service. Your Outlook, your Gmail, These are the most popular software as a services, but we have huge amount of services as well. For example, Facebook also one of the software as a services. Now, infrastructure as a services, Amazon EC2 is there. I'll get into that next one. You might be wondering what is EC2, but I'll walk you through in the subsequent sessions. Right. So, types of cloud still continuing. When it comes to security, everyone plays equivalent role for maintaining the security in the cloud. Okay. Now, in cloud, AWS is providing the services. Okay. You can have hardware, you can have OS, you can have database on top of applications. AWS is providing infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Based on your business needs, based on your demand, you try to consume what you need, right? Consume what you need. Say you're going for platform as a service. Say you're going for infrastructure as a service. It is allowing a space for you to build an application and deploy it on the cloud. Okay, which means that you as the end customers, AWS as a cloud service provider, both are playing individually equivalent role, securing the whole AWS ecosystem. You are deploying some application, make sure that you are not deploying any malicious application into the cloud, right? Responsibility. You as a customer, your responsibility for security in the cloud because you are deploying an application in the cloud. You have to make sure that the application, what you are putting it should be secure enough. You have to make sure you are setting up your credential, you are setting up your MFA, or you are setting up your security policies, you are setting up your NACL, everything it is your responsibility around that application. At the same time, AWS is responsible for the security of the cloud. They will make sure that the hardware is not being hampered. They will make sure that entire data center is secure, right? So both customer as well as cloud service provider plays an important role in securing the whole AWS cloud ecosystem. Right. I'm still continuing. If no other question, I'm continuing. If you have a question, please raise your voice. Okay. AWS pricing model. AWS has three types of pricing model. One is compute. Pay for the compute, you use it. Pay for the compute, pay for the services, you use it, or resources, you use it. Storage, how much amount of storage data you have in the cloud, use it. And then the data transfer. Data transfer in the sense, say, you have huge amount of data for regulatory purpose, you wanted to keep it for longer duration of 5 years, 6 years. But you know that you are not going to access those data frequently, but you want to save your money. Rather than putting those data in the on-premises, keep maintaining the databases, keep upgrading the databases, better transfer the data into the cloud. It's going to give you a lot of money savings, right? Because AWS has different types of storage categorization. Especially for archival, you can save a huge amount of money. You transfer the data, your data is going to stay in the cloud as long as you don't want to consume, it will be there in the cloud. Now, when you want to consume the data from the cloud, you pay for the amount. Okay, that's called data transfer out of the cloud. You are paying for the amount of data you're consuming from the cloud, but you are not paying for the data you are putting inside the cloud. So the data transfer into the cloud is a free. The data, taking the data out from the AWS is costly. Okay, so that's the three pricing model: compute, storage, and data transfer. And in terms of infrastructure, AWS, as I said, AWS whole the world is being divided into number of regions. Each region has got number of data center, nothing but your availability zone and edge locations. Edge location in the sense they wanted to serve the customer more quick and more fast, reduce the latency. So they set up kind of data. They set up kind of connectivity point at each places. Maybe like in Brampton, they might have one or two. Mississauga, they might have one or two connectivity point called as edge locations. Okay. So 30 launch region each with multiple availability zones. So you can have minimum 2 availability zone up to maximum 6 availability zone. So totally AWS has 96 availability zone and 400 plus edge locations are point of presence. Okay, so now I'll show you, what is it, browser. So you can go here, regions and availability. Okay, so you wanted to figure out the North America. Let's click North America. These are all the regions you see here, right? Northern Virginia and AWS Government Cloud. This is mainly for US government, and Ohio. And here, I believe, what is this one? CS Central. It launched in 2016, and it has 3 availability zones. One is upcoming, I believe. Yeah, this is Canada West. Okay, coming soon. What you see it on the red dot is coming soon. What you see it on the green dot is already launched. I believe in US they have 6, but in Canada they have 1 active and 1 in plan. Okay, Northern California and Oregon. The other informations, US West, 4 availability zone. Sorry, one moment. I think somebody's calling Balamurugan. Balamurugan. All right. So I think we were going through the infrastructure discussion, right? So
Yeah, the regions.
yeah, the region. So you can go over here and figure out like what is the list of services are being offered on individual regions and individual data centers. Okay, because AWS has both region specific service as well as global service. When I say global service, that is viable and applicable all the regions, all the data center. And some of the services are specific to a regions. Okay, you cannot consume the services from the outside regions. Okay, so we have both inside the region as well as the global services as well. So this page will give you good amount of knowledge on what is available. Okay, you can easily figure out the edge location information as well. So if you see here the edge locations, Montreal, in Toronto and Vancouver. Okay, so these 3 edge location, I believe those 3 are availability center as well. So they have 3 edge location, 3 availability centers in the Canada regions. Okay. So I can. So this one, you wanted to figure out like what is being offered on an individual region. You have to choose the region and it's Canada. Let's see anything. Okay, so let's take Ohio. Okay, in the Ohio region, these are the services are being offered. Okay? AWS budget, certificate manager, chatbot, Cloud9. So these are the services are being offered. Same way, you can definitely browse through the list of the region as well, and you can easily learn what are the services are being offered on individual regions. And if you go to the edge networks, CloudFront, and CloudFront is nothing but for your the quick access. Okay, especially for caching. Okay, so you are accessing a content which is located on the Vancouver server, but you are located on the Toronto. So first time when you put the request, it goes to the Vancouver and then fetch the content and store the content in the Toronto edge locations or Toronto data center. When a subsequent request comes for the same content, it will not route the request to Vancouver. Rather than it will fetch the content from the internal CloudFront edge location itself. That's called as caching. That's mainly for caching. So we will learn on all those services going forward, but this is just let you know the visibility of how AWS have structured the global infrastructure, right? In India, they have one in Hyderabad, another one in Mumbai. In Mumbai, they have 3 availability zone, and in Hyderabad also 3 availability. I think they are building one more as well. Okay. So this will give you the information about the global infrastructure for AWS. Okay. So now the next one, AWS Management Console login, and this is what I wanted to cover. I thought of covering it today, but let's do it. Let's do this on tomorrow. So AWS has both global services and region-specific services. Global services, in the sense the services are applicable across all the regions and across all the availability zone you can access. Example: IAM, Route 53, CloudFront, Web Application Firewall. Sometime back we have seen those services. And region-specific services, which are applicable only to the specific regions. Okay, so when you try to configure an Amazon EC2, that's nothing but elastic cloud computing infrastructure as a services. If you configure in the CA Central, that is accessible only on the CA Central. You cannot access this resource from outside CA Central, right? So that's called as region-specific services. So some of the region-specific services are EC2, Elastic Beanstalk, Lambda, and Recognition. Okay? And you can even go to the link and then find out what are the products are being offered on the region as well as the global services that we have seen. So in summary, we have learned about AWS Cloud Introduction, account setup, and console walkthrough. We can do it on tomorrow. Because of the time, I think some people are already logged out. We'll do it the remaining session on tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sundar.
Yeah. Thanks, Sandeep.
Okay,
Thank you.
so anyone has any question? Anyone has any question?
Okay. Could you please share the PPT so that we can recall once before coming to the next session, right? So if there